Hi everybody, it's Ashley of Day to Day Social Work. I am a private online tutor and I specialize in assisting people to pass the license exam in social work on the master's and bachelor's level. You can find me online at daytodaysocialwork.wix.com/my site. You can find me on YouTube at Day to Day Social Work, and now you can find me on Facebook in the Facebook group Day to Day Social Work. So this video is about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. A lot of you may be familiar with this program because we are social workers, but there are some people who may not be aware of this federal program, and it's very beneficial to people who qualify. So this program was started in 2007, and I have notes because I want to give you accurate information. It was created under the College Cost Reduction and Access Act of 2007. So it is basically a 10-year program where you work for a state or government agency, hospital, not-for-profit agency for 10 years, and then your loans are forgiven after you make qualifying payments, 120 qualifying payments, and you must meet other qualifications as well. Excuse me, you must meet other qualifications as well, and you must turn in the correct documentation and paperwork. So I'm here to give you that information. It will be in the description box below. I am going to also be reading directly from the website that this information is on, and I will also link that below, and that website is studentaid.ed.gov. So I will put everything that you need below. So the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is a program that's open to people who serve the public. So social workers, police officers, teachers, firefighters, just those kind of positions, or people who work in those kind of fields, but they also must work for a qualifying agency. So it can't be a nonprofit. It has to be, it can't be a for-profit. It has to be a not-for-profit 501c3 program, or state agency or government agency. You also must have a direct federal loan in order to qualify, and they have to be consolidated. So if you have, and I'll take myself for instance, in undergrad I had a few loans, and then grad school, of course, I had some loans as well. So I had to consolidate all of my loans, even though I had already started paying on my undergrad loans, because I took 2 years before I went and did my master's degree. So I took 2 years off. So I had already started paying on my undergrad loans. So those payments didn't count. But once I consolidated my loans into one direct federal loan, now it qualifies for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Again, this program was started in 2007, and it's a 10-year program. So when we do the math, last year, 2017, was the first year that people were able to apply to have their student loans forgiven if they signed up for the program in 2007. Now, last year, there was this whole big thing about how, or even early this year, I think, there was this whole big thing about how they were going to do away with the program, or they were going to change the qualifications. So from my understanding, and I always encourage everybody to do your own research, but from my understanding, everything is still fine for now as it stands. And I'll give you a little bit more information about an addition that they made to the program in just a second. But so I was reading this article last night, which made me come and do this video today, about a lady who thought that she was enrolled in the program and she had been making payments, and when she went to apply for the forgiveness, she didn't qualify because she didn't turn in the correct documentation. So she had been paying on her student loans, thinking that she was enrolled into the program, but she wasn't, because she never enrolled in her service. Her loan service provider did not inform her of the correct way to go about it. So that's why I wanted to come and inform everybody about how to go about making sure that you are correctly enrolled and that you have completed the correct documentation. So I was reading the article, and I saw that last year about 7,500 people applied to have their student loans forgiven because they started in 2007, but only about 1,000 of those people were able to get their student loans forgiven because they correctly did everything and the other people did not. So you don't want to be one of those people who pays under this program or think that you're paying under this program and you actually didn't. And then 10 years from now, you have an even bigger balance. And that's what happened to the lady. She thought that she was paying, but the interest ended up just growing exponentially, and she ended up owing a whole lot more than she thought that she would. So basically, the deal is that you work for these agencies for 10 years and you pay your student loans back under an income-driven repayment plan, so that you have a balance left over after 10 years and that balance is forgiven. Now, if you're anything like me, my student loan debt is not as bad as some people's. I mean, I didn't take out a whole lot for undergrad because I had scholarships and I had grants. And the only reason I took out loans for undergrad was because I wanted to move off campus and get books and a computer and all this other stuff, but still I didn't get a whole lot of loans because my scholarships and grants paid for my tuition. And when I went to graduate school, I only got what was needed to cover my tuition. Everything else came out of my pocket, my books, my supplies, and all that kind of stuff, housing. I worked full-time when I went to grad school. I was in grad school part-time, so I only got the exact dollar amount that I needed for tuition and fees for the school. So I don't have a whole lot of student loans, but it's still a big number. It's about $45,000, which I guess is about average when you consider that I'm combining both undergrad and grad school. But anyway, so I haven't even hit the principal yet, so I'm still paying interest. And that was a concern of mine when I first enrolled into the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, because I was thinking, do I have to be paying off the principal in order to qualify? But I have been assured that even though I'm just paying the minimum, and if you're in this program, you only want to pay the minimum because you have to have some money left over to forgive. So I'm only paying the minimum, and they ask that you only pay the minimum, because why would you pay more when it's going to be forgiven, hopefully, in the future. So I'm only paying on the interest, and I haven't even hit the principal yet. So I am going to call and make sure that this is still legit. Like, you always want to check in on something like this that's a 10-year program like that, especially with different administrations coming out in and out of the office. So I'm going to read, like I said, directly from the website and let you know what all you need to do to qualify. And I'm not going to read this stuff word for word because, like I said, I'm going to link it down below. But I do want to just go over a few things. So you have to have qualifying employment. What qualifies for employment is a government agency at any level. It can be federal, state, local, or tribal. A nonprofit agency that's tax exempt under the 501c3 of the IRS or the Internal Revenue Code, or other types of nonprofit organizations that are not tax exempt under the 501c3 if their primary purpose is to provide certain types of qualifying public services. And so they go into this whole thing about what qualifies there, and that would be emergency management, military service, law enforcement, public safety, early childhood education, public service for individuals with disabilities, public service for elderly, public education, public health, and the list goes on. So, or you can also be serving as a full-time AmeriCorps or Peace Corps volunteer. That also counts for qualifying employment. These don't qualify: labor unions, partisan political organizations, for-profit organizations, including for-profit government contractors, and not-for-profit organizations that don't provide the public services as their primary function. So I'll let you read the rest of that. What's considered full-time employment? Full-time employment is that you work at least 30 hours per week. If you have a part-time job and you only work 15 hours, and then you have a second part-time job and you work 15 hours there, you can combine those hours and it can count towards the 30 hours of employment each week, as long as you work for one of those qualifying employers. Let's see. If you are employed by a nonprofit organization, time spent on religious instruction, worship services, or any form of proselytizing, I always get that word mixed up, but I know what it means, may not be counted towards meeting the full-time employment requirement. Again, the loans that qualify, it says it has to be a federal direct loan, and you can't have defaulted on any of those loans. If you borrowed before July 1st, 2010, some or all of your loans may have been under an older federal student loan program called the Federal Family Education Loan Program. And so they give you information about that because there's some special stuff you need to know about it. And that's also known as the Perkins loan. Those don't qualify, but they may become eligible once you consolidate those loans into a direct consolidation loan. So my loan servicer is FedLoan Servicing, and that's where I consolidated all of my loans, because I think I had a Perkins loan for undergrad, and that was before 2010. So once I consolidated everything into that direct consolidation, then all of my loans then qualified. Let's see, what else? I can skip through that. What qualifies as a monthly payment? Payments made after October 1st, 2007, under a qualifying repayment plan, and we'll talk about those in a second, for the full amount due as shown on your bill, no later than 15 days after your due date, and while you are employed full-time by a qualifying employer. So my current employer is a for-profit, and it's a little sketchy as far as the not-for-profit and the for-profit, because when I was hired at the hospital, I worked for the hospital, and it was a not-for-profit agency, but then a for-profit company came and bought out our department, but we still use the hospital's HR, and the hospital is now merging with another hospital, and now we're going to go back to being a not-for-profit. So my current situation is a little confusing, but I have it all figured out. So I'll give you an example from my last job. So when I worked at the police department as a victim advocate, I was working full-time. It's the police department, so it is one of those 501c3s, the other ones that I mentioned at the last part where they mentioned law enforcement. And my bill then was like maybe like $180 something, and I was under the income driven repayment plan. It was based on my income, and they also look at your household and whether or not you're married and that kind of stuff, and that'll be on the sheet that I list in the section below. But so I had to make that full $188 payment on time, which I always do, in the full amount while I was working for that employer full time. So I worked there for almost 2 years, so I have about 24 payments that I made that qualify under the police department when I worked there. Now, you can make qualifying monthly payments only during periods when you are required to make a payment. Therefore, you cannot make a qualifying monthly payment while your loans are in school status, a grace period, a forbearance, or a deferment. And so if you're still in school and you're not quite sure what those are, they have links on here that will explain those to you. They also have a link here where if you don't know who your loan servicer is, you can go and see who it is, because it's all connected. It's a federal program, so it's all connected. They give you the My Federal Student Aid website to put in your PIN number and that kind of stuff to see And on that site, you can actually track how many payments you made, what the balance of your loan is, what's the principal, what's the interest, and all that kind of stuff. The 120 qualifying payments don't have to be consecutive. So, for instance, while I'm working for a for-profit, I can still make payments, but okay, so I went from the police department working about 2 years, consecutive payments, went to the hospital, it was a nonprofit, consecutive payments, and then the for-profit company came and bought us out. So while I work for the for-profit, the payments are still due, but they don't qualify for the public service loan forgiveness program because I don't work for one of the qualifying agencies. So even though I'm a social worker in this capacity, still doesn't count because I don't work for one of the qualifying agencies. And I called and followed up on this because I didn't know that our company was going to get bought out by this for-profit, and that was a concern of mine because of this whole student loan forgiveness thing. And so I called and followed up, and they said that I don't qualify, even though I'm a social worker, even though I do the same exact role and position that I did when I worked for the hospital. Because I work for a for-profit, those payments don't count. Now, if I go back into the hospital, or once the hospital becomes merged with this other hospital and they make it into this new health company that's a not-for-profit, then I can turn in the proper documentation and start back paying under that public service loan forgiveness program, and those payments will then qualify. Let's see, what else? You can read through that. The repayment plans. Qualifying repayment plans include all of the income-driven repayment plans that are based on your monthly payment, that base your monthly payment on your income. So I'll let you all read all of that. They give you a link there, and that's great so that you can go ahead and follow up on those. How do I apply? I'm going to put the links to the application in the description box, as well as to the employment certification form. You have to turn in an employment certification form every year. That's how they keep track of whether or not you work for one of these qualifying agencies or companies. And that's also how they keep track of how many payments you've made under the qualifying employment or employer. And it also is a good record for you to keep for yourself. So every year, you do like a recertification. They send you an email. They might even send it to you in the mail. I can't remember. But every year they also look at how much money you make. So every year I get a raise, and every year my payment goes up. So when I went from the police department to the hospital, I got a big increase in pay, and my student loan payment went up as well. So they do look at that. And I'll let you read all this. Please make sure you read this stuff, because I read every single thing before I sign anything, so make sure you read it. Let's see, employment certification, we just talked about that. Where can I see how many qualifying payments I've made? After you submit your employment certification form and your loans have been transferred to FedLoan Servicing, you'll receive a letter telling you the number of qualifying payments that you've made. So that's that, and they do send that out. I have that in a box somewhere where I keep all of my records of stuff. Who at my employer can certify my employment? That's a good thing to know. So your boss can't certify your employment, or maybe they can. Whoever has access to your employee or employer identification number, that's normally who will sign it. It's probably your direct supervisor or somebody in HR or a manager or somebody like that. It can't just be your coworker. It has to be somebody in a executive position or an authoritative position. Will I automatically receive public service loan forgiveness after I've made 125 qualifying payments? No. It says you'll need to submit the public service loan forgiveness application to receive loan forgiveness. You must be working for a qualifying employer at the time, and at the time the remaining balance on your loan is forgiven. Note that loan amounts forgiven under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program are not considered income by the IRS. Therefore, you will not have to pay federal income tax on the amount of your direct loan that is forgiven after you have made the 120 qualifying payments. What if my Public Service Loan Forgiveness application is denied? You may still be eligible for loan forgiveness if your application is denied because some or all of your payments were not made under a qualifying repayment plan. So they do have, and this is what I was talking about at the beginning, a temporary loan forgiveness opportunity. There's a link there. Make sure you click on it. Whom do I contact with questions? They have a frequently asked questions page, and then they also have FedLoan Servicing phone number, which is 1-855-265-4038, and I'll go ahead and put that down in the description box as well. Y'all have to forgive me because my bite is still a little bit off after taking the Invisalign out, so I have to really focus on enunciating and stuff. But anyway, so things to take away from this. One, don't think that your public service loan forgiveness is automatic. You must turn in the right documentation. You must make sure that you are employed by the correct employer, that you are working the required 30 hours or more a week, and that you work for one of the 501c3 nonprofits, government agencies, state agencies, those kind of things. You have to make sure you turn in that employment certification form every year, and especially at the very beginning. Let's see what else. Make sure that your employment certification form doesn't have any errors. So no misspelling of your name or address. Like, everything has to be correct. Like, we're dealing with money here. So make sure that everything that you have on your documentation is correct. Make sure that your forms are signed by the correct person at your job. Make sure that you enroll in one of the income-driven federal student loan repayment plans. Also, only federal student loans qualify for this, not private student loans. Make sure you consolidate those loans if necessary. If you have to consolidate to qualify for the program, you really want to look into that. That's what I did, because I had some loans that was before this 2010 or 2011 starting point. And let's see, make sure you recertify every year. If your address changes, make sure it's kept updated, because you can completely forget this stuff sometimes. Well, I guess they won't let you because they always email you and stuff like that. Don't skip any payments. Make sure your payments are on time if possible. We all know that things happen and you might have to go into deferment and those kind of things, or forbearance, and that's fine. But just make sure once you come out of that situation and you start back paying on your loans, that you get all of the correct documentation back into the people. And also make sure that you know that your job qualifies for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So I am going to link everything down here below, so make sure you check it out. Even if you don't listen to this whole entire video, all of the stuff that you need will be down below. Alright, so I hope this has been helpful to somebody. If you have any additional comments to make about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, please let us know below in the comments section. And until next time, I'll see you later.